Hello everybody, and welcome to my beginner's guide for Farthest Frontier. I'm Icon, and in this video I'm going to wrap up everything you need to know to enjoy this game. You will find timestamps in the description box below, leading you to the various topics of this video, so if you're looking for something in particular, go check them out. This video will give you a basic understanding of the game itself. I'm going to explain how to set up your first settlement, keep your people alive, pick food, understand the whole user interface, and the like. What this video can't provide is a full explanation of all the functions because this game has really a lot in store for you, and despite being early access, there is already a lot of depth inside it. That being said, let's start with a quick overview about the game. Farthest Frontier is a very classic colony building survival game. Your goal is to set up a new city somewhere out there in the wilderness with your starting people. You will have to fight against the environment, against weather, diseases, wild animals, raiders. Although combat is optional, you can play this in a pacifistic way. And you'll get the entirety of problems coming with civilization, starting with, like I said, wild animals attacking you and ending with the lack of new shoes and the like. There is a lot of detail in this simulation. Nothing is very simple here. Once you start diving into farming and the like, you'll understand what I say. And that's the real charm of this game. They are trying to do a very detailed simulation, and the best comparable game that I've encountered so far was Banished. And that's been quite a couple of years. So if you were looking for a spiritual successor of Banished, I think you are very close to that. So, with that being said, let's get on over to the technical details. So, I want to explain the user interface real quick, and then we're going to talk about how to start and survive. So, in the upper border up here, you have your overview of things. You see here diseased villagers, your total amount of villagers, the happiness, your food storage, a very important metric, your current weather, the passage of the year. This is the time of the year, as you see here, winter, spring, and the like. Over here, you have a counter of your most important materials. Don't get this, don't be fooled. These are only the most basic materials. There are more in the game. And down here, we have the clock. Pretty simple. It's controlled by 1, 2, 3, 4. And down here, we have a lot of different management and building tools. This is where you build most of the stuff in the lower right corner. What we don't have so far is a map. You can only scroll out so and so far. This sucks a little bit. What's really important to know is that in the upper left corner, you have your building reports. Really useful thing. We're going to talk about these later in detail. And down here, you have your so to say, the left side of this here is management tools, and the right side here is building and and terraforming tools and the like. Very important to know. That's pretty much everything you see on the first glance, and every other detail of the user interface I'm going to explain later. You see here the people running around. They have icons on their faces, and that's basically telling you, when you mouse over them, what's going on. Basically, everything in this game is explaining itself if you either click it or mouse over it. So resources are clickable and explain themselves. These resource deposits and the like. It's all pretty easily understandable if you really try to. Okay, so far the user interface, that's the very basics, I know, but everything else would just convolute you with, or distress you with a information density that doesn't make sense at this point. So let's start with the basics. How to start? So first off, you get to select where your town center is going to be built. Your starting point should be somewhere where you see a lot of trees, some stones, and ideally check out that you find some iron ore deposit and some clay deposit in the vicinity. Never hurts. It's also good if you find some other rarer materials here. What's also always good is if you have some wildlife sightings and fish, But really the most important things are stone and wood, and maybe iron if you plan to survive a little bit longer. So the next thing you have to do, as you see here, the people are trying to build our town center, but they can't because there's 14 wood necessary and they don't seem to have that. So let's start with the harvesting of resources. You have this on the hotkey of H, and if you click that, you get a tool which allows you to just draw rectangles over things. And as you see here, they are white marked, and then the people flock on over there and get the job done. You can, of course, click all these things and mark them for harvesting, and everything can also be prioritized. So if you really want to chop that one particular tree real quick, you can do that. The workers assign themselves automatically as they see fit. If there is no building that needs their services, they will do building jobs, harvesting jobs, and the like. If there is a building that needs to be built with a worker, one of the free workers will go in there. It's really that simple. If you want to manage them more detailed, this is where you need to go. I'm going to introduce that as well. So we're now harvesting some resources. This works like that for all the basic materials, stone and wood mainly. And this will be something you'll be using quite a lot. So let's speed up our people, and as you see here, as soon as the wood has been filled in, there's this new icon, and this stands for workforce, work time, however you want to call it. So now we have our town center, and the town center is the point where you can look up a lot of information about your city. You can also see what you need to upgrade that thing into the next tier. Really important later on when I'm talking about the progression. And you also have access to the various other menus that you can access directly via these buttons if you really want to. There's nothing else you can do with the town center, but the town center unlocks a lot of other buildings. So let's hop on over to the building menu. This is all the stuff you can and will build. So if you click these, you open up a menu. As you see here, there are 3 tiers of building. We have right now only unlocked the first tier. What we need very early on is food and water, so you really shouldn't wait too long with that. So the first things I like to do are to set up a basic well. When you get on there, you see the screen changes. You get this blue overlay showing you how much water is where. Water shouldn't be delayed too much because you people really need it. You will require a bit of stone, so let's put on that. And the other thing I want to build right away is something for the food production. Here it really depends on what kind of start you have. So here we have birds' nests around, and if you wonder what they do, you can always click something, and here it says seasonally lay eggs can be collected by a forager. You always get an information what kind of building you'll need. Same for the greens. You will need to build a forager to collect these things. No forager, no collection of these things. And as you see here, when you select them, they come with this yellow circle, and I think this goes without saying. Whatever you want to pick has to be inside this yellow circle. Also take care that you don't set up buildings on top of deposits like that. You will not want that. But don't worry if this ever happens to you, buildings are easily relocatable. It's no biggie. Okay, we're setting this forager up here because we get a nice amount of greens and birds' nests in there. You can, by the way, rotate buildings by pressing tab. So we have the forager, but I'm not going to stop myself with that. Let's set up a fisher because we have a shoal of fish up there. Just make sure that the fisher's yellow circle is including the fish, as you see here. And you get a little bit of a readout what's how productive the fisher is going to be. And that's that. So to get these things done, we of course have to harvest more resources, and don't clear things. Harvest them. Clearing does not do you the favor you need. All right. So we have the basics of food now down. What's happening now is that my people are going to do these jobs. I'm going to prioritize these jobs, and we're going to provide another important thing here, and that's housing. So, housing. At first, we can only build shelters. Every shelter will provide 4 slots of living space for every person here. So we have 12 people at the beginning, so we're going to set on up these wherever we see fit. As you see here, location desirability is a thing. Basically said, the higher the better. You will need the desirability for the upgrades of your houses later, so you'll use them. So what we got here now, I have prioritized these buildings to make sure that the houses here will not get built before the food production is running, because food production is really, really imperative. Okay, so we have now access to some food, and there's way more here. We have a deer sighting here, we have herbs and mushrooms here, and go wild. Go outside there, collect your food, you'll really need it. Those are the first basics. The next thing you'll need are storage things. So build up yourself a stockyard, and this is going to be the place where you are going to store your building materials. What's really important right here already is you should ideally think about where your people will live and where your industry will be. Because the thing is, every industrial building does lower the desirability around itself. And therefore, your housing can never be directly next to your industry. Otherwise, your people will hate what they where they live. And if the desirability is too low, your people are also not able to progress in higher levels. But I'm going to explain more about that later. So right now, I want to finish the starting routine. What we need besides that now is another thing, and that's the firewood splitter. Don't delay the firewood splitter for too long, because this guy is going to keep your people alive during the winter time. We're going to set on up the firewood splitter right next to the stockyard, because that's, in my humble opinion, a really nice combination. The stockyard does house the the storage, the wood for you, and this makes the logistical pathways as short as possible. The firewood splitter will produce firewood for the winter time. The problem there is you won't need that before the winter, but you will hate yourself if you make that too late. So all in all, you'll need a lot of wood early on. So make sure that you always have a nice supply of logs. The real bummer here is we cannot tell our firewood splitter how much he should produce. So I hope that'll be fixed in the later stages of the game. So let's check it out. The last thing we're lacking now in our list here is a market. As you see here, the market requires a saw pit, and we're going to see the saw pit requires the stockyard. So the saw pit and the market will be the last 2 buildings that I consider as the typical starting routine, because once you have these 2 buildings, you will have access to processed wood, planks, and these will provide you access to all manner of different buildings. So I'm going to build up the saw pit right next to that, and then we have access to the market. The market does provide distribution of goods to your houses. So basically the market will stockpile food and the stuff in its in the building and distribute it to the people. But here's the real nice catch: you'll gain money out of that, because you know people start to spend money as soon as you have a market, and that's why these things are so important. Okay, So we're going to let our people finish that, because as soon as you have the market done, you get taxes, and then you have the most basic things down. To end the chapter of how to start, your people will grow once you have more housing. If you have only as much housing as you have people, people won't have babies and the like. So this is a way of limiting your population. So how to progress now, you might ask yourself. This game has a very simple and clear progression path. To go further, sorry, you can't notch that down yet. These are too loud. To progress further, you need to upgrade your town center. You see, for the next tier, I'll need 8 shelters, I need 1 market, and I need 30 people, and then I'll need to pay 40 wood planks and 25 stone, and once that's done, I have unlocked the access to the tier 2 buildings. But as you see here, a lot of buildings are still locked here and there. For example, here, the tannery and the other resource buildings. That's because I haven't built the necessary prerequisites yet. So if you're ever unable to build anything in your current tier, check it out what you're lacking. So the progression is pretty clear. You set on up everything from your current tier, then you upgrade your town hall, and then you unlock a lot of new things, and then you have to satisfy the new needs of your people, and then it all comes on over again. So once you have unlocked the next tier, you have to increase the desirability of your homes to unlock them to the next level, and these things are... I'm going to explain these things later in the upgrading section. I just want to give you a overview about how to progress in this game. The higher the tier, the more complex the production chains will grow, and that's something you'll be working on out more and more the deeper it goes. You'll have to go for the infrastructure, you'll have to satisfy the people's needs, and you'll have to bring up more and more things. You'll have to take care of medicine, you'll have to take care of clothing, you'll have to take care of raiders. For example, here we have a predator. Whenever that happens, you click that, then you draw a big bad rectangle over your people, and then you slow down the game to 1/2, and then you right-click that sucker, and your people will attack the wolf. If you don't do that, they won't attack the wolf and run away like babies, and that's a bad thing. If you just smack them on top of that, it's going to be quite easy. Okay, so that's the basics of progression. You will find it that the complexity between tier 1 and tier 2 is going to be a tremendous jump. So don't you worry, there's a lot in it. So to explain more of the things now, I'm going to hop on over to a more advanced save file. Catch you there. Here we are at a more advanced little settlement. So the next thing that I wanted to explain was farming. Farming is something you shouldn't do in your starting routine. Why? Because setting up a farm takes a tremendous amount of workforce. Not a good thing for the first year. Once you have set up your farm, you get this sick little thing here, and this game is very detailed with its farming, okay? Very, very, very detailed, and you'll have to take care not only over the fertility, over the soil mixture, and a lot of things. What I wanted to showcase here was a very simple solution that I found for everybody who's totally overwhelmed by that. The thing here is, the simplest solution to your problem is, check out how much impact on the fertility the plant has. That's the second from below, the second thing. If you start counting from below, you see here, impacts fertility +2. And the other thing here has a impact on fertility of -2. So as long as you put 2 fruit crops together that just equalize each other out, you won't kill the fertility of your soil. That's the most important and simple thing. You can tweak and do crazy things here. You can set up field maintenance and all manner of different things. This thing alone is worth an entire tutorial, so just the basics. Check out how much fertility impact something has. Check out that you equalize it so your field doesn't lose too much fertility, and be aware that you can just drag and drop these and try to keep your crops outside of the frosty area unless they are very frost tolerant. Very frost tolerant stuff like clover here can easily be snuck into these things. You can here clear the crop that you have on your cursor, or you can also expand your crop fields, but I really wanted to give you just the rough basics of farming. There's a lot more to it, but this is enough to get the job done. So if you're looking for something like that here this is my wheat farm. Wheat is extremely demanding. It has a -5 fertility, so I went together with clover, which has a +5 fertility impact. This is the very, very basics of farming, okay? Okay. So let's get on over to your management tools. Since this game does go into larger numbers quite quickly, there's a couple of things that I found really, really, really useful. So first off, there is the there's down here the profession menu. I've been talking about that a little bit, but this is really something that is going to be very useful for you, because sometimes you want to keep some businesses on a higher ratio and sometimes you don't. What's really important here is you can define how many builders there should be. Builders only build stuff. If there's anything to be built, a builder won't cut trees, for example. Only laborers will prefer that kind of work. Pretty important if you ever want to distribute your work under circumstances where you are low on people and the like. The other thing up here, very important and useful here, is your production and consumption reports. I really, really like that, because here you see that how your productions and your consumptions go together, and most importantly, how your spoilage goes. Spoilage is a really, really big thing in this game, and finding out how to reduce spoilage is very, very important. These menus here, check them out quite regularly, especially if you want to grow your population, whether or not you have enough overproduction. Basically here, it's a pretty clear case. We have enough we have enough production of veg, but we don't have enough production of meat. We are producing only that much meat and we're consuming that much meat, so we have a problem here. So with these menus, you can really help yourself a lot. And the last thing is the resource and storage menu. Very important as well, because you see here a lot of things that you usually don't see that easily. Also, you can see how much pressure there is on your storages. Very important if you ever ask yourself, do I need more storage or not? So the last thing here is the villager happiness menu, and then we're done with this topic. It's really, really easily explained, but you can check out here what exactly is the problem with your people. So for example, here the food is an issue and the clothing is an issue. Check these things out quite regularly and you'll find out what you have to take care of before it bites your back. Okay. So, next thing I want to talk about is how to upgrade things. I mean, I have already explained it, that you always have to meet these requirements. Many of your workshops here, for example, the saw pit here, have upgrades as well, but they have the same requirements there. To upgrade things, you need a lot of things, but heavy tools are one thing you have to trade. I'm going to talk about trade as the next thing, so just so you know. Here, the thing here is, there's three really nice buttons to know. G for desirability, I for water, and F for fertility. G shows you how the desirability lies, and you see here, the desirability of these buildings is around 30%. To increase the desirability, you need decorations. Decorations cost you gold. Gold, you know how to make it, is really, really important in that regard. To make effective living quarters, therefore, leave room for decorations. Otherwise, you'll really, really be annoyed about what you did there. And as you see here, there's always a projection of what this will do. As you see, as we get closer, it gets this green border, and then the numbers change. That's a projection of what this building will do for the numbers. It doesn't help to build two medium gardens. They won't stack up. Every housing building can only be influenced by the same decoration once. Just so you know. Respect that when you set up your housing areas. So, the next thing, trade. Trade is being made on the trading post. So once you have built that, you can load items into the trading post and sell them there. Here's one thing. To sell something, you have to carry it manually into the trading post. To buy something, you have to manually carry gold into the trading post. There is going to be a trader every now and then hitting town here, and they'll bring different things, and they'll want different things. What's really, really important to know is that these heavy tools and similar items can't be produced before you have imported them via the trading post. So this is really important that you utilize this, because without trading posts, you are not going to be able to progress at a certain point. So this means to trade effectively, find something your city can provide in a steady pace, and overproduce it and trade it. That's the gist of it. Alright, so we're almost at the end of this video, and I want to give you a couple of tips that I found already quite helpful in my meager experience so far. So, first thing that I want to talk about is the relocation of buildings. Every building can be clicked, or almost every building can be clicked and relocated. Housing can't be relocated, but practically well, practically every building that's not occupied right now can be transported, as far as I remembered. But every time one of your buildings is not going to work out anymore, for example, the Hunter Shack was standing here, or the Hunter Shack can be transported somewhere else. Yeah. So to move the building, of course, it has to be shut down and yeah, relocate building location. This yeah, this button is only working for your card. That's why I was confused. This is for your storage card, which can be also moved. You can use that as a mobile storage thing, but every building here can be relocated by pressing this button. Sorry, I practically confused myself there. Next thing that I want to talk about is be careful with your growth. Always take care that you have enough food to sustain your people. Always have more food than you need, because this game is really smacking things on you. Here, crops lost to rot. There's a lot of random events making things harder for you to survive, and really, don't grow too quickly. It'll only invite catastrophe. And last tip, easy tip, try to provide different types of food. Don't have only one type of food. Try to have meat and vegetables. So, if possible, have a hunter or a fisher, or ideally both. And try to have a nice diversity. And last tip, check on out what your people need before they need it, and plan how to build it up. Like clothing. It'll bite your back if you start producing clothing when the time is there that you need it. It's way better to start researching how to get that production chain running before you need it. So, I hope you found that video helpful. Leave me your comment down below. Leave me a thumbs up if you enjoyed, and of course consider subscribing. Speaking about subscribing, in the description box below there's not only the timestamps I've been talking about, but also links to different ways of support for my channel. There's a new reworked Patreon that I'd really invite you to check out. Members of my Patreon have the power to influence the content that I'm doing, and I'd be really happy to have more people there. And last but not least, donations via PayPal are always a very, very welcome sight, because my content will always stay free. I'll never do any paywalled things, and I can use all the help that I can need. So, have a wonderful day. Thanks for watching up until this very point. It means a lot to me, and enjoy this game. See you soon.